Nora, welcome. It's so good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sven. I'm very, very happy to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
First of all, where are you based and where are you from? Really, I love
Well,
the accent and the energy. So I'm just curious.
yeah, thank you for saying that. I am Mexican and I live in Mexico, in northern Mexico, actually. It's called Chihuahua. And most people recognize that from the name of the dog. But just to clarify, there are no Chihuahua dogs roaming the streets of Chihuahua. And this is in northern Mexico, close to the U.S. border with Texas and New Mexico. So that's where I am, and that's where I'm from also.
Beautiful. I mean, one of the things on my bucket list with traveling is Cancun, but I guess that is
Oh,
every tourist's dream, right?
yes, yeah. You have to go there, and then after you go to Cancun, you have to try other places in Mexico. There are many, many beautiful places. But yes, Cancun is definitely a good starting point.
On my side, of course, my name is Sven. I am the growth marketing manager for Interprefy, and I'm based in the beautiful South Africa. I'm unfortunately not on the coast. I would love to be in Cape Town, but I am in the city of Johannesburg, and I have been living here ever since 2007. Prior to that, I was living in the Cape. I was a surfer boy. Hair was a little bit longer, and I was a lot younger.
Wow. Well, when you come to Cancun, I don't know. I don't know if there's any surfing in Cancun. Probably not. But if you're used to living, on the beach and everything, oh, you're going to love it.
I'm totally excited, and we have to meet up if we do come through. All right,
Yes, yes.
especially if
I'm
I'm in Chihuahua.
super, yeah, I'm super far away from Cancun, but do come to Chihuahua. It's not as much fun as Cancun, but we have some beautiful sights here as well.
Amazing, amazing. So, Nora, I've actually prepared a few questions for you. Something that I am dying to understand a little bit more about the interpreter that you are, your professional skills, etc. And I would just like to know, why did you actually become an interpreter? What was your drive to get into the industry, to develop the knowledge, the skills? I mean, I know it's a very intensive job with the amount of cognizant skills and roles that you play within one event. So, what inspired you to become an interpreter?
Well, this is maybe it's a story about role models in a way, because when I was in high school, the our school principal would come to our class to talk to us about things that we could think of going to school for and things like that. And at one point he mentioned that he at that time he was an English teacher, but he mentioned that he had always wanted to be an interpreter. And at that time I lived in a very small town, or well, a relatively small town, and I didn't really understand or know exactly what an interpreter was and what interpreters did. But he explained that to us, and that I found it fascinating. And I thought, that's what I want to do. So that was the first time that I thought, oh, this is what I want to do. And then, of course, as I think happens with anything that you set your mind to, I started seeing a lot of information all around me about what interpreters did. This is before the internet, of course. So, as much
Yeah.
information as could be available then about what interpreters did. And yeah, so that was it. I thought, this is what I want to do. And I didn't know if I was going to be able to get there because, like I said, I lived in a very small town, and I thought, well, I don't know if this is ever going to happen to me. So I'm really happy to report that it has happened and that I enjoy it tremendously. And what about you,
You,
Stan? Tell me about your work. I think it's fascinating. You were telling me before we started that you are in marketing. I admire people who are in marketing so much because of the creativity that goes into it and everything. So, what about marketing for interpreters or for an interpreting services company?
Nora, my journey actually started as a very young man. I've been in marketing for about 12 years now, obviously starting at very junior positions, including the studies, working while studying, and being in marketing both on the B2C side of things and B2B.
Mm.
Now, the journey with Interpretify, should I say, was quite an adventure. You see, I've always been passionate about languages, technology, accessibility, and localization within the marketing sphere. And when I saw the opportunity popping up to work at a company like Interprefy that actually combines the two, I just couldn't resist the opportunity, right? So, as you would say, I leaped at the chance faster than you can say real-time translation. And
Okay. I like
I
that.
was I was I was fortunate enough to be appointed as the growth marketing manager for Interprefy. And this role is just something that really drives my soul. It's an ever-changing environment. You have to become very agile, and the challenges is what keep me engaged in my day-to-day job, from hand to hand. And if we're talking about interpreters itself, behind every campaign and strategy, there's an ultimate goal to actually amplify the work of interpreters, just like you as well. Where in this, we are actually in this sphere together, right? Bridging language barriers and connecting the world at one language and one word at a time. So you see, when we post new ads, we are reaching out to the audience, our target audiences themselves. We aim to make your job more visible, valued, and versatile, obviously coupled in with our solutions and services as well. And by doing so, we make every interaction count, right? And that is for the attendees of our prestige events that we attend, where we as a supplier can supply our solutions, and you as an interpreter, coupled with the skills and knowledge that you have, provide a solution that really assists the event, gaining them in the global reach, in providing accessibility. So with Interprefy and interpreters, me as the growth marketing manager, this is the type of synergies that I see between you and I as marketeers and interpreters.
Oh, I love that. I mean, you said so many words that resonate with me just now. I mean, I loved when you said synergies at the end there, of course, because I think, and I'm sure you'll agree, companies like Interprefy couldn't exist and couldn't thrive without interpreters. But the same is true for interpreters as well. I mean, interpreters couldn't exist or couldn't thrive and grow without partners such as, companies that provide the services that we need and that provide platforms for us to be out there and, offer our services. And that's something that's always on my mind. I wonder if I'm at a point in my career now where I try to help young people who are trying to break into interpreting or translation. And I do that by doing things like professional development activities and things like that. But I always think, what if there is a really talented interpreter out there who is just looking for a way to offer their services, to make themselves known? So I loved what you said about creating that synergy.
Amazing. Thank you, Nora. Appreciate that. But Nora, like you also said as well, we're providing the platform for the interpreters, right? But I've got a pressing question for you as well that actually would be quite interesting for me to know, is that post-pandemic and during the pandemic, how has this changed your working environment and the way in which you interpret the type of events and the actual day-to-day of you as the interpreter itself? What has the impact been, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, I love that question because as terrible as the pandemic was, and as terrible as the after effects still are, the pandemic really changed my interpreting life for the better, I have to say. And I'll have to explain that briefly. And maybe to understand that, I should start by saying I said I used to live in a small town. I no longer live in a really small town, but I don't live in a huge city that is a main hub for interpreting events. So I don't live in Mexico City, for example, where you would be busy as an interpreter. You would have an assignment every single day on site. And so where I live is an area where we have major conferences during the year, for example, on mining and farming and, things like that, dairy cattle and things like that. But they're very cyclic. It's not like you have something every single day. And when I first started, and up until the pandemic, I would say, um, most of my interpreting work would be limited to whatever events were available to me locally. And of course, I would travel also, but not as much as some of my colleagues who are traveling all the time. And I always wanted to be able to do things in certain areas. I mean, not geographically speaking, but in terms of topics. But I would submit quotes, for example, and the fact that I live in a relatively far away from major cities means that flying out of Chihuahua to go someplace is more expensive. And so that means an added expense for clients. And so I knew that I wasn't competitive in that way. And I wasn't going to be hired to go across the world to work for 1 or 2 hours, for an event that was going to be only 1 or 2 hours when it was going to take 2 days to get there and, things like that. So with the pandemic came, of course, RSI. And that, in a way, was a dream come true for me because then what happened was that companies, and I mean LSPs, that I had registered with as an interpreter years earlier started calling me and saying, hey, so they couldn't give me a job to, go and travel someplace to work for 1 or 2 hours. It was easier for them to find someone local. But now it was okay for them to say, hey, are you available on this day to interpret for 2 hours or half a day um, over over the internet, online? And I'm like, yes, of course. And so that created a whole new market or opened many new opportunities for me. And that meant that I started sharing a booth, for example, with colleagues that I had never worked with. And you know how it goes. It's like a chain, word of mouth. And so you work with someone, they like your work, and then they hear about an opportunity, they recommend you with those people, and then you start working with them. And it's this network that grows and grows all the time, and you make a lot of contacts, you have a lot of fun, you meet a lot of very talented people. And so now, basically, I was thinking about this the other day. I still enjoy going on site, and doing the week-long events where you're there all the time and everything. But I wouldn't mind changing that for, just RSI, where for example, right after our interview here, I have an assignment that is going to be 2 hours, and it's for a group. I do a lot of religious interpreting. It's going to be for a religious group out of London. I'm in Chihuahua, and I'm going to be working with them, and I work with them almost like every couple of months. And then you know how it goes. People leave their companies and they go and work someplace else, and then they remember that they worked with you, and then they want to bring you on board as well. So that has changed the landscape of interpreting for me. And I know there have been, of course, some other um, effects or impacts that have not been as positive, such as the large events that we used to have here in Chihuahua. Some of them are no longer happening because after the pandemic, or during the pandemic, it was just impossible for them to happen. And after the pandemic, many of those clients decided that they were okay doing everything just online. So some things have gone away, but other things have come up, other opportunities have been created, and I enjoy it thoroughly. I mean, I enjoy being able to start my day with a 1 hour or 2 hour or 3 hour assignment, and then, going on to do other things without having to travel or to be away from my office and things like that. So, yeah, um, overall, I'm enjoying the post-pandemic world of interpreting. How about you? How has it changed for you from your perspective?
Amazing. Oh, the pandemic. Tell me about it, Nora. It's been a hot topic. It's kind of something that is parked in the back of your subconscious now, but it's never left. The world is still feeling the effects, but it's really turned the event scene on its head, right?
I
But in the
agree.
same breath, this has also been quite a catalyst of innovation and Interprefy as well. As we would say, we've pivoted faster than a unicycle artist. Switching to
I like your I like your little phrases and analogies.
Marketing for you, right? But ultimately, switching to the virtual events and enhancing our platform to deliver the seamless remote interpretation services, and giving you the platform exactly as you've explained in your experience with the pandemic environment. Um, the world went to virtual, and we were here. I was at Interprefy. We were here with our headsets on, ready to interpret. I mean, our solution was founded around the principles of remote simultaneous interpretation back in 2014. So when the pandemic hit, we were kind of primed for the change, right? And obviously we saw the company grow from a toddler to a teen in that transition. And it's been absolutely beautiful, in my opinion, to see the transition and obviously the challenges that arrive for companies, for industries, and individuals like myself as well. But overall, I have seen a positive change from the pandemic, the post-pandemic environment as well. Nothing has been negative on my side at all, Nora. Really can't complain. And to be honest, just like you, I love the remote work. I love the sense of flexibility, the sense of having your own responsibility and making sure that you are doing what needs to be done in a diligent way, but in the same capacity, you have the freedom to express yourself and to have that creative time within your mind to relax and do the job diligently and effectively in the same breath.
I like that. And I think you had said earlier that I think the sense that I'm getting is that you're someone who thrives when there is change around you. And so
Yes.
I think that's so important. And it's unfortunate that for some people in my profession, the pandemic and now artificial intelligence have raised challenges or barriers that have become impossible to overcome for some people. When there are, if we looked at them in a different way, we would see them as opportunities to work differently, opportunities to grow, and to simply find a way to maybe even reinvent ourselves. So I think your attitude is the kind of attitude that we need in the face of change.
Thank you, Nora. You're too kind, my friend. And likewise as well, having this mindset that you have as well from an interpreter point of view it's really positive and wholesome to hear and see in the same breath, you know. But Nora, I've also got another question. I mean, with the remote work side of the side, obviously came the platforms as well. Now, I would like to know, what do you like most about working on the Interprefy platform itself? If I may ask, from a marketing
Yeah.
point of view, this is something that is really going to be interesting for me, and I think a lot of the colleagues and the rest of the world as well.
Well, are you taking notes? Because here comes my list of things that I like. Well, let me
I
tell you
think
that I
Sven's
was
recording.
uh, I came to Interprefy, or to start using Interprefy, because one of my clients set me up for it, because that's what they were using. And so when I first started using Interprefy, I was coming from other platforms that are not specifically designed for interpreters, that were adapted to be used when RSI became so um, so popular. When I had my first assignment on Interprefy after the training, when they first said you have to take some training, I thought, "Ah, how difficult can it be?" And then I'm there, and oh, that's a good idea that there was some training. Because the last thing that you want when you are interpreting, you talked about the cognitive load earlier. The last thing you want is to be wondering where the little button is that you have to click, and where something is, on your interface. So that training and that preparation to be able to use the platform is so important and so helpful. And what I like is that it's all there. It's everything is integrated, and you can you don't need to have additional resources, additional things open as you are working. Communications with your booth partners and with your coordinators are integrated. You can listen to your partner. You can go and listen to other interpreters in other booths as well if you want to. And that support that you get, to make sure that everything is working smoothly. I think that's super important. In a way, one of the transitions that were so difficult for many interpreters who were used to working in the booth, in an actual physical booth, when remote became so popular, was when I'm in the actual physical booth, I don't have to do anything. All I do is I just get there, I sit down, and everything is already beautifully set up for me. Right now, all I need to do is get my my headphones, maybe open my laptop, and that's it. And when we started working remotely, a lot of it was, now you are the interpreter and the technician, and you have to make sure that you have everything set up correctly. But with Interprefy, there is someone there to support you, right? And there's someone there to help make sure that your audio is sounding okay, and to, just to be there in case something happens. And there is that feeling of, I don't have to be in charge of the tech now. I know I need to know how to use the platform, but but beyond that, there's someone there to help me if anything needs to be done. So I like that. I like that very much. I think it's the closest that it gets to being in an actual physical booth. And well, just overall, I just like the experience. I enjoy using it. I think it's very well designed. It works well. And I think maybe that's the golden principle of design, right? When it becomes so transparent, invisible in a way, it's not obtrusive. So I would say it works well from my point of view.
Nora, we appreciate this type of feedback, of course, because it helps us optimize and develop where need be, of course. And some of these features that you have mentioned now as well is prominently some of the basis of why the platform is so successful in its entirety for interpreters itself, not just the event planners itself or the attendees, but it's a three-way response, right? And that's what I just love about it, and it makes me very proud to promote myself as a growth marketing manager at Interprefy for these particular reasons. And we're looking at taking on the market and making sure that we are going to be the multilingual solutions partner going forward. So I hope that we can book you for many more events. I'm sure we will.
Let's hope so.
And you've enjoyed the platform. Do you have any further questions for me, Nora, at all?
Well, I think maybe the one question, and it's also related to what you were saying just now, is what is Interprefy doing in the era of artificial intelligence to make sure that interpreters are, as you said earlier, visible, valuable, and versatile. I think you use those words to refer to interpreters. And I think one of the fears in these times of AI for many of us, maybe more so in the translation world, but also in the interpreting world, is, are companies trying to replace me? So what is Interprefy doing or going to do to make sure that interpreters feel appreciated and realize that AI is not here to replace us, but if anything, to supplement the work that we do?
Nora, that's a very good question, difficult question. So of course, in Interprefy itself, we have developed our AI solutions. It's the shift in the market, and this has given us an opportunity to break into a market that is in need of AI translation. I would say translation because I don't feel it is true interpretation to itself. But with saying that, the solution only fits certain use cases, right? The bulk of our business that we are still receiving is remote simultaneous interpretation. Where we have the larger events, we've got complex terminology, nuisance that needs to be carried across amongst cultures, different languages. There are particular use cases where RSI really is leaps and bounds ahead of AI, in my opinion, currently where it stands. But as AI is obviously advancing at a rapid rate, we do not necessarily see this replacing interpreters, but providing translation for a particular use case that has never had the possibility of including localization or interpretation into their particular environment or scenarios. And these type of industries have now seen that there is some form of benefit to having the translation, the interpretation, localization within their bigger scheme of things, but don't necessarily look for the complexity and the advancements and professionalism of that of remote simultaneous interpretation or interpreters like yourself, but they're looking for a cheaper on-the-go solution for scenarios that fit into a use case where an interpreter is not necessarily needed, or the costs might be a little bit too high. So Interprefy does not see Interprefy Avia or AI speech translation solutions replacing the interpreter, but rather opening up translation and localization for those markets that have never utilized it before and have found benefit in it going forward.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that answer. And I'm sure my colleagues and just as myself love the reassurance that we are not, that Interprefy is not looking to replace interpreters for those events and scenarios where we are needed. And I think the support and getting that message from, from an important platform like yourself is very important and very necessary for us, because there is a lot of apprehension and panic around AI. And in fact, if I may add something, I'm the co-organizer of the yearly translation summit and a yearly interpreting summit that I co-organize with my wonderful colleague, Josh Goldsmith. And in November 2023, to mark 1 year of the availability of large language models such as ChatGPT, we are having the what we have called the AI, the Artificial Intelligence in Translation Summit. And in 2024, we're probably going to do something similar for interpreting. And so I think if I may, Sven, if you allow me to do so, I would like to invite anyone who listens to this interview, who tunes in to our conversation, to come and join us for the summit. If the summit is already over by the time you listen to this, because it's going to be November 14th to the 16th, 2023, there are replays available that you can get. And so we have 20 plus presentations on AI and how AI can be used to our advantage in translation this time, but a lot of it can be extrapolated to interpreting as well. And so I think it's important for us in these times of uncertainty to inform ourselves and to learn about what's going on and to see where our strengths lie that cannot be necessarily replaced by AI, and to embrace that attitude of change and positivity that you have shared with me today for what's coming, because this is here. AI is here. It's here to stay. I don't think it's going anywhere. And we need to figure out how to coexist with it. Would you agree?
Of course. So Nora, but I would like to know, because you've got me interested as well. How do I join?
Oh, come to the
How do I
summit.
join? Where do I sign up?
Well, and let me tell you, there is so much interest. We are at the time we are recording this, for those of you who watch this later, we are a few days away from the summit, and we are nearing 4,500 registrations. So that's close to 5,000 linguists from around the world who are so curious about AI that they will be joining us to discuss about it and to learn about it. So how do you sign up? You can go to our website, which is aiintranslation.com. So that's very easy, aiintranslation.com. And so if you by any chance get to watch this before the summit, you can join us for all of the presentations are pre-recorded. And if you cannot be there for the summit itself, during the actual dates of the summit, like I said, we have the replays available for 1 year. So, and by the way, we are also doing, there's a little plug here, but as a follow-up to the summit, in January, Josh and I are doing what we are calling an AI bootcamp, where we are meeting for 4 days with people who are interested in coming to play with us with AI. to put into practice many of the things that we will be learning during the summit. So to actually do some hands-on workshops. So that's happening in January. And if I may include another plug, I'm also
Please
the
do.
the trainer of a certificate in AI for translators and interpreters. And the next edition, the one we have done two in Spanish already, very successful. We've had 300 students go through those, and we are having the first one in English. It's going to be in February 19th to that week. So for 5 days. And I don't have the link with me right now, but if you find me on LinkedIn, I would be happy to share that with everyone.
Nora, thank you for sharing that. Thank you very much for sharing it. And for those interpreters that are listening, we have an opportunity on our hands. Please join Nora at the AI Summit. But Nora, I mean, to conclude our discussion here today, I've really, really enjoyed my time with you. Honestly, I really have. And discovering a little bit more about you as an individual, as well as your profession, which is interpreting. We started from the small town all the way to post-pandemic that is now remote. And I really appreciate it as well. And the fact that for those of you, Nora speaks Spanish as well. That's your native language, am I correct?
Es correcto. That is correct.
Thank you very much for speaking my native language today, which is English. Much appreciated.
Sven, I have enjoyed this tremendously. Thank you so much for inviting me to be here. I have to say that this conversation could go on for much, much longer. And it's a pity that we don't have more time. But I'm very, very grateful for the opportunity. And I hope that we can connect on LinkedIn so that of course, I follow Interprefy, but so that I can keep learning about the marketing efforts that you are undertaking on behalf of Interprefy. So thank you for everything you do. And thank you to Interprefy for thinking of interpreters and making our lives easier.